I get asked all the time, what should I use for project management? What should I use for my communication channels? What should I use for automation and things like that? I will always give people the same six things. And the reasons as to why I give them is something that I've not been able to go in depth on for a while now. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 6 tools that every B2B service-based business needs in order to start things off and scale and continue to run things as they scale very, very, very well. The 6 that I'm about to tell you. So there are a few common issues with picking tech, and one of the main issues is marketing in general. If you pick a tool because it's the tool that was marketed to you, more often than not, you're not picking the best tool that's on the market. This happens a lot with Zapier. There are a lot of automation platforms. I'm not going to go off and list all of them. You've got Zapier, you've got Make, you've got NAN, and there's probably 9 or 10 others which have very different functions. But if you're using Zapier, you're missing a trick. And the reason why is because Zapier does not scale very, very well with pricing. Zapier is horizontal. The UI is vertical instead of horizontal. So if you're, for example, trying to make a very, very complex automation and you have to looking up and down, and the actual builder in and of itself, like having to zoom in and out of the builder when it's vertical is actually way harder than when it's horizontal. You also spend a lot more money creating different functions because every single function is its own block inside of Zapier, as opposed to things like Make and NAN where they're built in to like one or two places. And because of that, you end up running around using a platform that has a very tight understanding of how to make you go from 0 to 1, but you can't even go from 1 to 5. So there's a very, very quick like learning period that happens with Zapier, but you don't get to go much past that. You're very limited by what Zapier gives you. Whereas there are others which are a little bit harder to learn that allow you to do way, way more. And those are the ones that I tend to go for, one of them being the one that I'm going to mention afterwards. So that's number one. Number two is using tools for a purpose that it's not designed for. The amount of people that I've seen use Trello as a CRM actually bugs me to no end. Trello as a CRM, ClickUp as a CRM. I know Monday.com has started creating, like a CRM version of what their software is. But if a purpose is designed for project management, for example, like ClickUp, then all of the features and the way that it is built makes the most sense in that realm. So if you try and take it out of that realm, then you'll often give yourself problems where you're having to jerry rig things and make things that are there when they're not meant to be there. A great example of this, and this happened probably in our first 4-5 months of business, is we tried to use Go High Level to create a booking system for our business partner's cousin's hair salon. And it was an absolute nightmare because everything was powered off of the workflows, but the workflows were things that ended up being complete monstrosities that ended up breaking half the time, because doing things like, oh, how many appointments would you like at one point? Would you like this, and this? Like making regular appointments for certain things. And there's like, I can probably give about 4 or 5 other examples. Doing those things were tremendously difficult tasks because the software is not built for the purpose that we were trying to use it for. So you should really just go off and get, like a Shopify store for those purposes instead of something along those lines. That's kind of what I mean when I say using a tool for a purpose it's not designed for. You kind of have to look at why it was marketed and then only use the things that are for the reasons as to why it was marketed in the first place. So that's number 2. Number 3 is picking tools that don't scale well with pricing. And a lot of these, so Zapier is in this bracket as well. And a lot of softwares that have features that you can't get until you hit a particular bracket, or credit-based softwares like Zapier, like Clay.com. I'm going to lambast Zapier a lot in this video. You just know that this is going to happen. But a lot of credit-based, very, very expensive credit-based softwares tend to have this problem as well. Number 4 is actually picking tools that are too freeform, and I can show you a nice and easy explanation with Notion. So if I just quickly come out of here and just open up my Notion, I'll show you what a new page looks like, which is basically this. So if you have a new page in something like Notion, and you write some stuff here, you write some stuff here, you make another page here somewhere which is titled this and it has this inside of it, and then you put a random Kanban board down here somewhere which has A, B, and C next to it, and then you've got like links in other places. If you start doing this and you start having things in a very, very free flowing state where they're not bound by databases or any idea of structure, then connecting one to the other as far as tools are concerned is going to be very, very difficult. A lot of people that I've worked with who have used Notion for their project management try to get around a problem that they're having by making Notion a little bit less complicated, or by making Notion even more complicated, which has happened in certain circumstances where you have like a calendar view, for example, and you have a bunch of due dates from Monday to Friday for particular items that need to be done. And instead of, having like getting notifications out for when these due dates occur, these automations actually won't allow you to do so. So if you have any kind of edits with the dates, you can't send webhooks, you can't do a bunch of other things. You can only notify specific people and do things along those lines. So the connectivity that comes from even the smallest amount of structure that you get from a software like Notion doesn't actually work very, very well as things grow, and when you need to start doing different things or make things look a little more orderly. So that's kind of Notion in a nutshell right there. And then the last thing would be picking tools with zero connectivity to other tools. So there are tools out of the box that just don't really have a lot of connectivity. If you were to look at them on Zapier, or you were to look at them inside of their own tool itself, there isn't much that you can do to link A to B. There's no triggers or actions that are really like fruitful. And this is something that obviously Notion, as I've just explained, has the problem of. But also like school.com. School has basically zero functionality when it comes to any level of automation. So if someone's payment bounces, or if someone, for example, does some action outside of school, there is no action that I can do within school other than unlock items inside of unlock whole courses, or add people to school in and of itself, which does make things a little bit harder in that sense as well. So with those issues in mind, I'm going to now talk to you about the 6, and I'm going to give one more bonus at the end as far as, what are the best tools to use. And if you ever get the question in your head, hey, what should I use for A, B, and C? This is the video for you, and these are the 6 that I recommend. Number 1, Airtable. So Airtable is, unlike the other types of software that were made for a specific purpose, Airtable was not made for any particular purpose, and it is structured, which means that it does what Notion does well, in the sense that you can make it whatever you want to make it, but it's also built on tables. It's basically Google Sheets with rich text in a very fancy way, and which you can build a lot of stuff on top of. Airtable is great because it's basically front end and back end, which is exactly how a lot of SaaS tools are built, and it's how a lot of the inner machinations of just a website would be built as well. So that kind of idea or that principle is quite prominent across the internet, which is why Airtable is so great for so many different purposes, because it's just tables. It's literally just tables. Now, even though it is just tables, you can do some really cool stuff with it. So if I show you what I've done for someone in a build that I'm actually currently working on right now, you can create interfaces inside of Airtable. So you can take the tables that you have, and you can create a front end to display those tables. And the front ends can look something as clean as this. Just, you have a home page with a bunch of pages inside of it. And let me not gonna go there. Let's go into pages, and then you can basically create Kanban boards or whatever the hell you want to create. You can create lists, a whole bunch of things, right? And within them, you can move things from left to right. You can click inside of them to see what's going on with, navigation links here, page details, development status. All of this stuff can be built using the raw data that came from the table that you built this interface from. And the best part about Airtable was that everything is built on all of the tables, all of the items in the tables are just like ClickUp is as well, built on formulas, single text, single selects, other types of drop downs, check boxes, and numbers, and really easy things to just put together. And the formulas themselves are very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful too. So with things like that, you can create a ton of stuff. So if I was to move this right now into external QA on design, what it would do is it would take the information that is inside of here, and this is some of the information that's also hidden, like, because I've linked there's a linked client here. It will take the client's information, which actually comes from this table here. We'll find their IDs from like Slack and things like that, and send messages inside of their channel. So by doing one small movement, I can say, hey, this went from design to QA. Can you please take a look at this page and tell me if it's good or not? If the page is good, they click a button, and then that button moves things over here. And that is something that you can do very, very easily inside of Airtable, because of the way that Airtable is built. And I could go on and on and on about this, but a lot of the best ideas for automations that you can make are just moving things around in Airtable. It's just changing single selects in Airtable, which triggers something else. And again, there's also automations inside of Airtable that you can even get used to as well. Every single use imaginable, for dashboards, for understanding how to sort out your own content, understanding how to, planning campaigns for ads, planning campaigns for cold outreach, fulfillment for the team, project management for the team, organizing calls, keeping meeting notes together, taking meeting notes and putting them on top of automatically putting them in different fields. You can do a ton of stuff with Airtable. So I use Airtable specifically for lead generation and content, as well as fulfillment. And you don't need a ClickUp or a Notion to do those things because of how powerful it is. So that's number one. And you've already seen what the next two are. So number two is Slack. Now, Slack is great because it's a nice small hub. It's pretty inexpensive if you have a pretty small team. It's like $8 per month per user. And you can bring in other people who are, other business owners, other users, other collaborators, etc. And they will have their own channel. And the way that Slack is built is very clean, in the sense that you have members, you have channels, you have groups that you can create, and all of these things have IDs, and all of these IDs can be put into something like Airtable when someone is, added as a new user. So let's say, for example, you've just hired a CSM. This CSM, once introduced into Slack, or maybe the automations that you're using to get the CSM in, maybe they filled in a form, maybe they've just signed on and done some sort of formal process to get themselves ingratiated into your team. They can get sent an invite. That invite will send them straight to Slack once they work through it and do all of that good stuff. They'll get added to the requisite teams that they're meant to be added to. They can also be, all of their information as far as emails and all that good stuff can be hosted inside of something like Airtable and can be fetched in any automation that you want. So I have another automation, which is whenever a new page, if I go back to the same page build, whenever a new page is made, I think if I do this right now, it'll probably work anyway. So let's say new page 3, I'll add a client and then click create. Let's say I've got, three or four CSMs, and in this example, landing page builders. I basically run a landing page agency. Let's make that the example here, right? If, for example, I've got, 4 designers, 3 copywriters, 2 or 3 CSMs, and a bunch of other people, I can set it up so that because they were added into Slack and this information has now been put into my Airtable, I can just have them in here, and the moment a new deliverable needs to be done, I can just automatically tag that person, notify them, and then assign them to the new pages like has just been seen here. So this is the stuff that, in combination with Airtable, makes things super, super easy. So Slack, Airtable, and the third one, which I'm going to mention, is Make.com. These 3, you can run some of the most serious operations just off of these 3. And the great thing about Make is that it's not NAN and it's not Zapier. It's the sweet middle. Make is a little bit hard to get used to right at the start, but once you get used to it and you get proficient with it, you're actually quite close to being able to code. And in fact, you can make really, really small types of code because there are certain problems that you can use ChatGPT to answer, and ChatGPT will show you what it looks like in code, and you'll realize, oh wait, this is like 3 little things. I'm just going to do this the next time I come across this problem. And now you know the basics of arrays, the basics of objects, and the key value pairs. Like everything is built off of those 3 because Make works with, JavaScript, JSON, that good stuff. So if I quickly pull up Make and show you some of the stuff that you can do inside of it, you'll see that there are a bunch of things that require, a small understanding of how it works. And this video isn't about trying to understand how to make the thing work, but it's just to show you what's possible and what the differences are. And one of the biggest differences based on, even Zapier versus Make is that you can do way more with Make. So if I just show, for example, let me show Slack. This is a really, really good example. So if I was to go into Zapier, let's just say Zapier Slack, and look at the Slack integrations, it will basically show you what you can do inside of Slack. So with Slack in Zapier, the triggers that you have are when new public messages are posted, new message are posted to channel, new files, new push messages, new team custom emoji added, new channel created, direct message, send private message, update profile, remove users from channels, and all this good stuff, right? This is only a fraction. This is an absolute fraction of what you can do inside of Make. And it's way more easily understood in Make as well. So you can watch for things, as in you can just have it so that every 10-15 minutes it will poll the system that you're looking at for new actions. That's what these asset things are. So you can watch public messages, private messages, direct messages, multi-party direct messages, private channel messages, public channel messages, and then you can create, update, and delete messages. You can watch for new files being added. You can get files, download them, upload them. You can list channels, get channels, list members, and then you can do the same things with reaction stars, saved items, pins. You can watch users. I'm still scrolling. There's so much more that you can do inside of Make than inside of Zapier, and that's one of the big things and one of the big reasons as to why I switched from Zapier to Make in the first place. If there are more actions, then I can automate more. If I can automate more, then I have more possibility to play around with certain things. I have more leeway to make things work. And if you combine Make with Airtable, then you can basically bring a lot of information into your automation to have it do different things. So even in this example, right, I'm not going to open this because this has my API key for Smartlead, but you can get a variable, or you can set a variable, and then you can do things like HTTP requests in these modules here. And these modules will just call a URL, and you can then split that up and then call the statistics of all those URLs and then add records just to add into Airtable. This is something that you can do in Zapier. It's kind of hidden away because you have to use code by Zapier or HTTP requests, but it's super easy to do inside of Make, and this is one of the reasons as to why I prefer this as over Zapier in and of itself. And big other reason, it's cheap as anything. It is so cheap. Operations per month is the same as Zaps per month, and for Zapier, I'm pretty sure that I think it's even gone up now. I think it's gone even higher now. So if you want, let me take a look at this properly. Yeah, so if you want 750 tasks, you're paying £23 a month. If you want 20, is this 20,000? If you want 20,000 tasks per month, you're paying £219. £219. You know how much you're paying on Make? $18 for the same thing. So it's night and day. The amount that you're spending for each individual action between Zapier and Make it's just not worth even having a look at Zapier for that exact reason. So that's Make. Number 4, Smartlead. Smartlead is the cleanest cold email platform on the market. It's the cleanest, it's the easiest to use, and also is probably the best product on the market as well. The owner really knows his stuff, and he's really in touch with, you know, the best practices and just how to make things work a lot better. And on top of that, it's got the best API in the game. Now, this is stuff that you don't really need to look at if you don't want to be super technical, but the fact that you would be using this, and again, if you are using all of the items on this list, then you have the possibility to do a lot of stuff. So if you're going in and you're managing your campaigns, and you need to understand, okay, so I have an idea of all of my campaigns. Let's say you run a lead generation agency, for example, and you do cold email as part of your service. Maybe you do a little bit of LinkedIn, and you also do a touch of ads, for example. If you're doing cold email and you want to have very clear statistics and you want a dashboard to be created, this, Make, and Airtable, which are all part of the stack that I've already told you, are all you need to make that automated. And then Slack would just be the communication channel that you could send scheduled messages to every single Monday with the results from the dashboard, or with the results compiled from Airtable. And you can start to see the reasoning behind the picks that I have picked. If you can join one to the other, and the web between all of the softwares is so nice and tight, and you know, there's just a lot of things that you can do and a lot of places that you can go, then it makes it very easy to do very core functions seamlessly. So Smartlead, again, is the top of the market, top of the range. So is my number 4 on my list. Now, number 5, Close. Close is probably the one that it's the newest entry. It's also the easiest to get started with, and one of the cheapest CRMs on the market for what you would need from it. I'm not going to open up my Close. My Close is absolutely busy right now, but you would need a simple CRM pipeline, 1 or 2 pipelines. You would need a couple of statuses. You would need leads that are ported over from Smartlead and Calendly to Make, and you just need to manage the stuff that's inside of there. Get a phone number, get your email connected to it, get some templates in it, and just start following up, start sending people to places. And then when you want to get you know, into the weeds with some of the automations and things, you can get custom activities working in your favor. And those custom activities can do things like sending off proposals, sending off contracts, sending connection requests on LinkedIn, and a bunch of other things as well. You have all of that inside of Close. If you are running ads, and you are running ads to a bunch of very small, or if you're running ads to landing pages, you don't need to do a lot with the landing pages, basically. High Level is another option, and High Level is the option that I am most familiar with as a CRM outside of Close. HubSpot is great if you have a larger sales team and you are going to use the extra functionality that would allow you to use the automations that are inside of it, because it is expensive when you get onto the automations platform. If you just need a mercenaries Swiss Army knife CRM closes the top of the range. And this is for if you're starting out, and even if you have a small to medium sized sales team as well. You can do everything in close. You don't need to do everything and have all of your ad funnels and have your Google My Business and a bunch of other things inside of one place. It's not necessary. So close is the one thing that you can use, and it serves the purpose probably better and simpler than any other CRM on the market. So that's number 5. And then number 6, Apollo.io. If you need leads, if you need data, person data, if you need phone numbers, if you need emails, if you need to understand a business as well from descriptions that it provides, Apollo is the place to go. It's the easiest UI on any database for leads that you can find. So if you're reaching out to other business owners, whether it's part of your service because you do lead generation, or it's part of your cold outbound strategy, this is going to be a better option for you than even LinkedIn. And I'll tell you why. If you Google Apollo exporters, you can find a ton of services where people have created scrapers on the back end that will take Apollo links and give you all of the information. Because if you know anything about Apollo, you can only add 25 people at a time. And even though you can get a fair amount of credits per month for relatively cheap, you're still going to be clicking over and over and over again just to get those things done. But there are scrapers out there that will give you $1,000 leads for $3 or less, and it's just taking the Apollo URL link that you have and sticking it in there. Apollo is really, really good and really, really easy to get started with. And once you start using what I'm going to give as far as my bonus is concerned, which is the next thing that I'm going to talk about, once you start integrating that into your program, into your systems, you can start getting very, very nicely segmented campaigns which speak directly to the ideal client profile that you're trying to reach out to for your cold email campaigns. Which takes me on to my bonus, a paid ChatGPT account. There are so many things that AI has provided that if you do not have a paid GPT account with, you know, your own set of API keys and the ability to just use like GPT for Sheets and things like that, you are missing a trick. You're missing a serious trick. And let me show you in another sheet what can be done. So I don't think I'm logged in as the actual user. So let me switch users one sec. Yeah, so inside of, I'm gonna try and hide as much of the, you know, personal information of these companies as humanly possible. But this is an Apollo scrape. No, this is a list kit scrape actually. But I needed to basically separate certain things out, and I needed to do so in a way that would make sense for the person that was being emailed, because I have a few thousand leads in here, and me reaching out to all 1,000, you know, all 4,000 of these leads with the same cookie cutter rubbish would get me, you know, would make me hit the spam folder. So one thing that I've done is I've taken the description of the business, which is just hidden right here, and I basically just copied it over, and I have the company name, the description, a classification, and a middle line. Now, what I've done here is I've taken this description and I've gone into my add-ons and I've gone into GPT for Sheets, and inside of GPT for Sheets, it's basically given me the ability to use ChatGPT for on any row or column that I want. And the great thing about it is that it moves very, very fast, especially with the new like GPT 4o mini and a bunch of other things like that. And it's very simple, because all you would do is go in and just look at the GPT functions. These are all of the ones that are available for you. The simplest one is just GPT. So you would put something in here that was like equals GPT, and then you have a prompt of value, which is just the cell that you're referencing, the temperature, which is how creative you want GPT to be, and the model that you're going after. So I could say something like, abbreviate this description and make it a first line for a cold email. Make it a first line compliment for a cold email. and then I would just put a colon here, and then put that there, and then the value would just be, the description here. And then I could just leave these alone and then just press go. It will click loading, and then just like that, in a second. In fact, did it even do anything? Okay. Impressive national reach with 80 million square foot managed. Your advanced tech driven real estate solutions truly stand out. Now I have a customized first line for a person that I could just put into their, just put that in as a merge field, and there we go. If I have any unstructured data or any, rich data that can be scraped and put into a spreadsheet, GPT for Sheets can do what clay.com does, but for 10, 20, 30 times cheaper, because I wouldn't be spending credits to use GPT functions. I would just be spending money on ChatGPT itself. Now, you need to pay a little bit for GPT for Sheets. It's like 20, you just have to put like minimum $20. But with the stuff that you can use and the prices of GPT now, if you go into the actual, the models that they have, GPT 4o mini is 90 cents for 1 million tokens, and it can take 128,000 tokens. Tokens are basically just characters. I think it's like 4 or 5 characters per token. So for that many tokens being created as quickly as it was for thousands of rows, doesn't even put a dent into the amount that you're spending. All you need to do is link your API key, and then just have a little balance going inside of GPT for Sheets, and you can just do whatever you want with any information here. So all of those things aside, you now have an idea as to what would be, the best things to use. Because if you're using something like Notion for project management, okay, it's great, nice, fine. You can send Slack notifications to one channel, but that's about it. And there's a lot of stuff that you can't do. There's a lot of things you can't play around with. You can't just create buttons, which would make half of the work be done for you. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to grow and to have someone come in and make something better for you, whether it be your own teammate or somebody else externally. Slack is actually the only one out of this list which is a tool that you would pick because of marketing, which actually is the best tool in the market for its particular purpose. I prefer Slack over School. It's that good. 3, Make.com explained why Zapier isn't the way, and NAN is actually just too complicated to get into if you're just starting out and you have no idea how code works in general. Make is a nice sweet in between, and there are a lot of things online as far as, getting better at Make, and I have my own videos on my channel which describe me making huge things in Make, but it's just like a show and tell, and you can just pick up Make by watching those videos as well. Number 4, Smartlead, best in the game. Number 5, Close, Swiss Army Knife CRM. Number 6, Apollo.io, because you can get as many leads as you want for a very, very cheap price. And ChatGPT paid. And that is all you need. So, in closing, if you have a lot of this down already, congrats. If you don't have these right now, I would highly, highly recommend switching. And the switching costs are not as bad as you think, especially when everything gets housed into one place, like Airtable. Putting things there in the first place is going to be the thing that saves the amount of time. It's also, there's another thing as well that hasn't been mentioned, which is just the learning curve that it takes in order to use the thing that you're building. Airtable's interfaces just make things really easy to use for every member of the team. And if you want a different way of looking at things, you can make the exact same table, or you can use the exact same table as a reference for the Kanbans that you're making, and just show different stuff every single time. So yeah, that's basically everything there. If you want to have an understanding as to, how to link all of these different softwares together for different purposes, I'm going to start making videos as to how you should think about creating the bases and creating the back-end systems and the front-end interfaces, so that you can connect things and make things work and make things happen and add different stuff to your project management and your lead generation systems. So yeah,